welcome to a special little microbrew. I am your temporary host, Dan. Hi, from the Game Brew. And I am joined today by the beautiful Allison Vandevander.
Hello.
Who's a little under the weather.
A little bit, sorry.
A little bit. And the just as beautiful, if not more, Christopher Wrights.
Oh, I thought this was going to be Katie. I was about to agree.
Yeah, I thought that was...
I'm not agreeing anymore.
I was about to be upset and excuse you. Allison is a beautiful creature.
I'm not. Anyways.
Not like Katie. You don't get that.
Oh,
and,
shush.
Yeah, and Katie. And we're joined by Katie Hunt.
Hi.
Say hello, Katie.
Hi. Sorry.
The instructions were say hello, Katie. You have failed the initiation. Right. I'm sorry.
You're now off the
Hello,
podcast.
Katie.
Goodbye.
Yeah, sorry. You got it. That's a penalty. So a little game came out a few weeks ago called Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's a little one. I don't know if a lot of people have heard about it. We have all played it and or watched it and or, kind of basically inhaled the content as much as we possibly could, as quickly as we possibly could, because we're gluttons.
And also, we have nothing else to do right now.
Yeah, exactly. We have nothing else to do right now. But we do have a lot of opinions about it.
So many opinions.
So we just wanted to talk about some of the things we liked, some of the things we didn't like, kind of some of the, Final Fantasy VII-ness. Everybody, it's widely regarded as like one of the best Final Fantasy games that everybody kind of...
Or any game.
Or any game. So everyone feels good about it. That being said, this podcast will be just chock full of spoilers. So if you don't want to hear spoilers for Final Fantasy VII Remake, don't listen to this podcast yet. But listen to it after you play it. Or if you do want spoilers, it's okay. Either for Final Fantasy VII, the original one, or the remake. So that being said, we're going to go into it. So obviously, Final Fantasy VII Remake is a remake of the game Final Fantasy VII, which came out in 1997?
I think 7. Yeah.
Yeah.
Game Brew Facts right here.
Game Brew Facts. Chris is double checking on that for me. And of course, whenever it came out, it was very much the standard, Final Fantasy.
January 31st, 1997.
Whew, nice, right at the beginning. And of course, when it came out, it was very much a Final Fantasy game, turn-based RPG, fantastical world, lots of different characters and personalities. And of course, it was all text-based. So everything we had to read it and kind of go through it that way. And obviously, a lot of people have very good feelings about it. The reason the remake came out is because fans were literally clamoring for it. And I guess they spent the last 5 years in development of it.
Forever.
It was a long time. So the first thing we want to talk about is just kind of the game itself being a remake, in case you were wondering what a remake is. Chris, do you want to tell us the definition of a remake?
The definition is make something again or differently. As in, the bed would be more comfortable if it were remade.
Right. So sometimes we get these confused with like remasters or re-releases, because there was a Final Fantasy VII remaster that they did. So all of the little tiny square parts of people's bodies just had sharper angles that you could see. But yeah, this was remade, just like Resident Evil 2 came out and they called it a Resident Evil 2 remake because they added things to it. They fleshed out some parts of the game. They made this section of it, which is just the beginning of the game until you leave Midgar, which is the very first city in the game, obviously. They've made that one game. At least they said it was going to be 30 to 40 hours to finish it. And some people were very skeptical.
That was accurate.
It was pretty right. I guess I was like 32 or something like that.
I think I was 34.
So I finished it. Chris, did you finish the game?
I finished it within 72 hours of it being released.
Oof.
Haha.
Traditional Chris Wrights fashion. And Katie, you live with Chris, so you were watching?
I was watching most of it. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
There was not much that I didn't see. And I'm currently on my own playthrough, and I'm just about finished with all the first quests you can do.
Nice. And Allison, how far are you in the...
I'm out of Midgar, but I haven't I haven't finished the game, so. Okay. But I've looked up the information, so.
Wait, you're out of wait, where are you?
Did you do the bikes?
Yeah, I've done the bikes.
Like the second
so you
boss.
just haven't beaten the the very last boss.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Well,
I thought I wasn't close, but I guess I'm closer than I thought after I looked things up.
You are
You're pretty
closest.
much there.
You're pretty much there.
Yeah.
I want to kind of go around and get everybody's like first kind of general, like, how did you feel about this game? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Were you indifferent to it?
I was disappointed about some things after looking it up and things like that. And just because of the way I felt like it was marketed, I had these expectations. And this is my problem every time with everything, and I've talked about it so much about movies and everything. I try to avoid everything I possibly can, because the second I start creating these expectations of what I'm getting, if they don't meet that, I'm really let down. The way it was marketed was, this is going to be a beautiful game that gives me my old Final Fantasy VII story in a Advent Children looking gorgeous setting from start to finish, versus just these beautiful cutscenes, which was so like groundbreaking back in 1970s or 1977 shit 1997. Sorry, I'm sick. But yeah, so it was just like, I thought I was getting the whole game in cutscenes, which just sounded just absolutely perfect to me. And I would love this game and not be upset like I am if it wasn't for the expectations the ads and things gave me.
So, like, do you mean when it wasn't like a pretty dialogue scene you were disappointed? Or
No, I was disappointed just with not getting Final Fantasy VII in the pure form of a remaster, which was just the confusion of how they marketed it. I think they just, everything looked like, hey, here's the old one. Hey, here's the new one. Doesn't it look great? This is what we're doing. And then it's like the M. Night Shyamalan moment of, what a twist. And I was upset. I was just upset. I'm sorry. This isn't what I thought it was going to be. So I was let down. That's all. It was a gorgeous story.
Is it because it's messing with something that you like so much?
Partially, but if they told me that from the beginning, I wouldn't have been disappointed. I actually really like what they're doing. I think it's great. I think the idea of like basically having the characters write the story, how interesting, right? Like being in control of their own destiny from what was once. That's very cool. I don't hate it. I wasn't expecting it, so it threw me for such a loop and just like broke my heart.
If they had said that there was a twist, would that have made you feel better? I mean, I think that if they had said like, oh, it's going to be the same, but we're making some changes, then it would have been like, it wouldn't have had as much impact.
Would you rather it make a cool impact on the fans that maybe haven't played it, or anger the fans that are like diehard Final Fantasy, like expecting? I don't know. I feel like I'm in a similar boat with Allison, where if they had said to me ahead of time, hey, there will be some changes, then yeah, I wouldn't have been so mad, I think.
For me, I thought it was really cool. I have never played Final Fantasy VII by itself, like the original one. So I was really excited for this, and I was really like excited to kind of play through that, because I know Katie's really into it, and a lot of people have said that it's one of the most influential games. And I just, with the old one, I couldn't get into it just because of how ungracefully it's aged, in my opinion.
Right. Sure, yeah. If you didn't play it back then, I get that for sure.
Yeah, like the graphics are, I don't know, they're jarring, which I'm not like usually that into, but like it's I mean, they're literally like sticks with muscles, little circle muscles on them. Like it's.
What are you talking about? Oh, Cloud was hot.
So hot.
Yeah, those bigger squares on the end of his little squares. Ooh,
yeah,
boy.
and like
I love a boy with
combat,
angles.
Like it's a chiseled jaw. I'm not really into like that old style JRPG combat. Like I had trouble getting into it. So for me, this was great. And I really enjoyed the meta twist of at the end, and the whole idea that they're like, this has kind of happened before, and they're being able to change some things as they're going on, and having that, I think, is just kind of really cool. It's kind of gets into like that Westworld timeline thing that I really like one of the reasons why I still watch Westworld.
That's kind of it. And like, do I get why Squeenix did this? Abso-fucking-lutely.
Squeenix.
because that's what they're doing, right? They want to grab new audience. They know that people like me and people like Katie and people like Dan are fucking buying this game.
Right. Obviously we're going to get it.
Yeah. What they wanted to do was have people who have never touched the game be excited for it and update the story in a fun and interesting way for those people. Do I understand that? Yes. But again, it's just like, it's probably something that you wouldn't have noticed as much not playing it before, but they really did market like frame by frame, like expectations of
they did.
Here's the old one, here's the new one, look how pretty it is. And again, like just some kind of hint. They didn't have to like break the whole story, but some kind of hint of like I don't know, some secretive little don't expect what you're expecting kind of line on something or something, just something to tip me off.
It's not going to be exactly the same thing that you saw before. It's a little bit different.
Right.
Remake.
Yeah, I agree with you, Allison, that like I think if they had said, hey, there's going to be a little bit of a change. I do think that the way that they incorporated changing some things is probably the best way that they could have done that if they did want to change things instead of just straight up changing stuff. I think I appreciate the way that they've done it.
Yeah, for sure.
The thing that like threw me off is that the trailer demo. Yeah. The demo was 100% the first mission.
Right.
So they knew like, ooh, this is exactly like the old game.
That's not true, because they had the reactor being blown up by the
except for that.
Yeah.
And then like right away I was like,
see, I didn't play the demo, so maybe that would have helped. No, that probably wouldn't have helped me. I would have.
Because the demo, because that opening mission, it was the same, but it just looked prettier. So I was so excited, and then it's like after that, stuff starts changing a lot. I feel like
I'm gonna put my 2 cents in here, so plink plink. But the I liked it, having played Final Fantasy VII the original and having playing this one. I didn't have as much of a problem with kind of the changes that Allison and Katie did. But because I think in my head I kind of expected like you can't do exactly the same thing. It's impossible. Like if you did exactly the same thing, it would have been boring and it would have been fast. So instead of or it wouldn't have been boring. It just would have been done really quickly. And I think kind of them splitting it up into multiple games, it's trying to kind of flesh out more of the things. Chris, go ahead.
That's one thing, though, that I kind of noticed. There were parts of it that really dragged, and there was some just unnecessary stuff in there that I don't think, like, you could tell that it was a little bit of filler. Like, they were just trying to stretch it a little bit. Like,
yeah, in Wall Market, there's a bunch of quests that you go on depending on which I realized today there's like 2 different ways you can do Wall Market. Mm-hmm. Either with like quests for Sam the Chocobo guy or
Chocobo
for
Sam.
Chocobo Sam.
I was really hoping that was actually what's his
Sam
name?
Elliott.
Sam Elliott. Yeah, which obviously they were going for, but yeah, like the part where you're going through, I guess almost the sewers, but with like the robot arms.
Yeah.
That shit was frustrating.
That was in the original one too. You had to do robot arm manipulation.
Oh, did you?
Things.
Well, that shit was garbage. And just like Katie was doing it today, like finding cats in.
Oh, that took a while.
In Sector 7, like it's just.
Well, and one of the things that I was panicking about, like the whole time watching Chris, was like, okay, this installment is just in Midgar, but I felt like that's such a short part of the original game that I'm like, are they gonna do 8 more installments? Because like you can get out of Midgar fairly quickly.
It takes maybe like 4 hours to do it.
Yeah, I feel like it's not that fast.
Well, and that's kind of it, and we'll talk about this at the end.
Or not that long.
But it's like, will the story even be anything the same from here? So that's going to be kind of something we'll discuss because
and I have some ideas on that, and as you said, we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Was there added stuff that you guys liked?
So I will say, the first time as I was watching Chris play, I felt like Scrooge McDuck because I was just like, well, that's not the same, and that's not the same. And
yeah,
I was,
but it's
so
like the
angry.
expectation they set, I feel like, is the issue.
But now that I'm playing it myself, you said at some point, like, be happy. Like, you're in this world that you love. Like, you get to spend so much more time in this place. And I, like, every now and then...
So Katie named her town in Animal Crossing Midgar because she loves Midgar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm like, be happy you're spending 30 hours instead of, 4?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So he said that. So, like, now that I'm playing through, I, like, will pause every now and then and just, like, look at the plate, you know, or, like, look around and be like, okay. And then, like, you know, the music makes it nice. And I will say, watching you do the battles is definitely much more boring than actually doing the battles. So I think, I'm definitely enjoying it more this time around.
It's part of the nostalgia too. Yeah. It's like
nostalgia.
You hold. Did I say it weird again? Nostalgia.
No, you say it perfectly.
Nostalgia.
You never say it any differently.
Nostalgia.
Nos. With a hint of nostalgia.
I'm so self-conscious about that word now.
Don't be. I love it.
But anyway, I'm having a panic attack about the way I say a word.
Hey, Chris, say windmill.
No.
So sorry. it's like this place that you hold really dear. So when it's not what you expected, it's hard to let some things go, like the Steel Sky. That's going to be something that's damn near impossible for me to not relate to Midgar, and not getting it will feel a little unfulfilling because like this was marketed as my HD version of Midgar, and it's not. Right. It's gorgeous. I love it. I'm loving my experience in it, and I really did savor every moment and play it through like really slowly because I liked being there. But it just, things felt off, and I couldn't help it because I just had this expectation the way they told me to expect this game.
Right. And that's a lot of the marketing was very much like, hey, here's a one-to-one situation of like, oh, this is what it was. This is what it is again, very similarly. So, yeah. And there were a lot of new environments and things that happened that don't happen in the first one, like the entire, like going to meet Jesse's family and then doing
I thought that was cool. Not like the actual mission that they tried to like force into that, but like meeting them and like him being a person that works at Shinra that's now sick and like
right, and it added motivation,
and it gives these characters like actual stories where they were really like one dimensional, and some of them just didn't have much of anything. So that was interesting.
Right.
I felt bad. I kept saying to Chris like, "Don't get attached. They're gonna."
Well, I mean, I knew that. Like, but then I was like kind of always waiting for them to die, and then some of them didn't.
Right. So
now I'm just like. Now I have trust issues with you.
Right. I have trust issues with this game.
So that's a good segue to go into kind of our second kind of thing, because one of the big things that they did is obviously the first one just had text and you had to read everything in your head. So everyone has their own kind of voice. In this one, they hired so many voice actors.
Good voice actors
for this
too.
game. Like good voice actors.
Yeah. Every
Every one of the main cast had a voice actor. Almost literally every little NPC character you would walk past was a different voice actor. Mm-hmm. So
right.
if you go
they reused a lot of character models. Which I didn't notice at first, but like when you look at them, they're a lot of cookie cutter character models.
It's true. They did do a lot of that, but I mean, going from little tiny squares to people with faces and emotions
or like
and stuff.
No people before.
Yeah, you're just in this barren wasteland.
One guy standing somewhere.
And it's odd that they did that. They did so many different voice actors, but they all used the same line. Like whenever you pass by them, they literally said the same thing. And they all kind of look the same. It's just weird that they spent so much time doing it.
No, you're right, because they spent a lot of time doing it, but also it's like, I think that's a cool throwback to the original one, because if you go up to the same NPC character and talk to him multiple times, he's going to say the same thing over and over again. That's so true. even if you walk past him, I wanted to kind of look up here real quick how many.
Heidegger's the voice of Bender from Futurama.
Yep, Heidegger is the voice of Bender.
Heidegger.
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 Heidegger, Ho Digger. Badger from Breaking Bad was Wedge.
Mm-hmm. Yep, Matt Jones. Yep.
I noticed that one pretty quickly.
There's a lot of people who are in it. I want to see the full cast list. I don't know if it's going to give me a count on it, but if you go to IMDb and just scroll down, the additional voices is so long. Mm-hmm. Like it's in alphabetical order, and it's just there's so many of them.
It reminds me of like how in World of Warcraft, you have like NPC or like these just tons and tons of random voices and tons of people that I didn't know voice acted some of the people until I go back and look at that. It was something interesting I dove into back in the day. And it's just like, in my head, I was thinking like, oh, one person probably did 3 or 4 of these. But in a lot of cases, like they're really individual people, which I find interesting because it adds a certain dynamic.
Yeah, it's just like workout guy number 3 was Aaron Hansen from Game Grumps.
Yeah.
And he only had like 3 lines that he said, but it's just fun to be like, oh yeah, that's right. Aaron Hansen. That guy sounds like Aaron Hansen.
Oh, the guy that was Don Corneo was the same guy that is the voice actor for Baird in Gears.
Oh, that's cool. Okay. That makes sense. All right. So, but with all these voice actors and all of the voicing things, we actually got some personality behind the characters that we have grown up to love. And one of the things that they really emphasized that I didn't catch in being a 10-year-old whenever I played it was Cloud's kind of a dick.
He's such a whiny dick. Yeah.
But so I feel like in the first game, they were able to just like pass him off as like a stoic, cold soldier, and now I feel like
he's just like emo.
Well, yeah, and he's got a tortured past. We all know that. Yeah. We all know like he doesn't know it, but we all know that he has this sort of really messed up history that isn't even mostly his. But it's a lot of him ignoring people's generally good-hearted things they're trying to do for him.
And that's kind of the thing. So like I know when we talked about Final Fantasy VII, I had creative voice actors in my head. We had that discussion and I felt really crazy. But it's kind of like the thing of reading a book and like making the story the way you want it. So then when you see it fleshed out by somebody else's idea, you either get disappointed or you just kind of have to accept what's going on and be like, oh, maybe this was better for the story to have it this way. And Cloud actually was somebody I never, like, I was attracted to a lot of video game characters, and I was never attracted to him because I found him obnoxious. So
in the old
game, yeah, I mean,
because he was the same way, just kind of stoic and always just kind of like, at least if I get my money, then.
I mean, but if you can be attracted to Link, can't you be attracted to Cloud?
Sure, I'm attracted to
Link. But Link
has
taken an oath of silence.
Link is more of like a clean slate. All he does is shot and hi-ya.
He's literally an empty character. And
like Cloud couldn't really talk. He didn't say much. I don't know.
I was super attracted to Squall, actually. And never.
Who wasn't?
Understand that,
Gunblade, all the fuzzy jackets.
There was just something like suave and cool about him, but I never found Cloud to be suave or cool, just like really obnoxious and childish. So that's the way I like portrayed him in my head. So this totally fit for me. Like I was like, this makes sense. Yeah, this is about how I expected him to be. But I haven't actually heard people be disappointed about his personality because they like set him on this pedestal and just like loved him, and then they get this like light douchebag like character.
I mean,
some light douchery.
It was not light.
Okay, yeah,
it was not really light. Heavy douchery. But keep in mind, the one thing to keep in mind from like a story perspective is like this is the beginning. So as far as a character, his arc isn't even really like he at the very end of this game, he just started to have his upswing.
Well, and I think that's it. Like this is so stretched out from what it was. Like Katie said, that like this was a blip on the first game, and he really didn't do much or have much personality. And they've stretched this out into his like lack of personality into a very long time period where you're just kind of like, oh, gross.
I do think they could have gotten away with making him more of like just a quiet good guy, and they didn't.
They really didn't.
Yeah,
so, it's true. Yeah. It's true.
They just stuck with the soldiery aspect of it, which is okay. But let's talk about I mean, one of my favorite characters, and I hope everybody's. I want to go
Everyone's.
to Barrett.
Yeah, like,
Oh, okay.
oh my gosh, here's the thing. Like, he was so forgettable in the old one. Like, he was there, but he was so just like basic, this guy, in my opinion, and nothing really to him. And this one made me fall in love so much more.
See, okay. So one of the things that I really like about the old one is because even though it's just text, I feel like you still could get a sense of their personalities.
Sure, yeah.
And like with him just like when he got pissed off, he would start like shooting the sky and like
Just shooting the
they would
sky.
have, like, symbols
Lots of like
he was
symbols because he's
cursing.
cursing a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know.
But I felt like he was just kind of like that character. That was all he was. And this one kind of gave him a little more. So it was just like he was comedic relief purely, and now he's comedic relief in a fun way, I think.
That's true.
So I remember seeing like an E3 thing where they played through the first level, and recalled that his voice was super annoying. So I don't know if they changed voice actors or something. I'll have to look that up. But
yeah, I remember hearing that.
I know a lot of people thought that he was too tropey, too Mr. T-ish. But I don't know. I really found him endearing, and I really liked him. Like I liked that. Like obviously he was cheesy a lot of the time, but at the same time, I really kind of liked that he had a softer side, and like that he was, like super like protective of Marlene, and
because that's like and the fact that like all he cares about is like, and this comes later in the story too, which because obviously Marlene isn't his actual child. I don't know, Chris, remember? I'm sorry, Chris. There's gonna be spoilers, but but like because of that whole section of it where it's like Marlene isn't his kid, it's like his friend's kid who he wasn't able to save his friend, but he's gonna raise his kid. But that also shows like his character is this very caring individual, and they really tried to show that because he cared about Biggs and Wedge and Jesse and Tifa and Cloud, even though he was like the whole time he was just like whatever, Merc. He still like towards the end again. It's like he still cared about Cloud and Aerith and all these other like and everybody in Sector 7. So he was kind
also he died for a second,
right?
And that was one of the big like, oh shit, this wasn't supposed to happen. Let's fix it. Like thing. I thought that I don't know. I thought that was cool.
I thought it was interesting too. Like it was an interesting way to do that, but also. And I'm going to talk about this at the end too, about my feelings about the future kind of stuff. But generally, the thing you need to take away from this is Barrett is the coolest thing in the entire world. Also, the fact that he would sing the da 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 da, and I was just like,
it's. I mentioned this later on in our script, but did you guys find it disappointing that was the only kind of version of that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not really. I was okay with it.
No, I needed more of it.
I think it was
kind
cool.
of fun when he did it. Like the first time he did it, I was like, "That's awesome."
Yeah.
I think the best part is that he just sang randomly. Like when he was in your party, every once in a while in the story, he would just start singing about "We're on a plate and we're gonna save the Sector 7." It's like, dude, he's me. He's basically me.
Yes, he's the party bard in a way.
Yeah.
And the other two main playable characters. So there's Red 13 is in it towards the end. He doesn't really actually get to be a playable character. He's kind of this little pet buddy who's kind of around, even though he talks and berates you pretty much constantly. But so he acts kind of like
knowing nothing about it.
Yeah, and extra.
Even though he's a lion, but apparently he's a dog, but also he's a Native American.
He's a cat, right?
Pretty sure he's the dog.
No, he's like a thing. He doesn't have like a.
I always thought he was like a cat.
He's like like a androgynous pet.
Yeah, he's like a lion. He's kind of like I would equate him to like a manticore-esque sort of creature.
Yeah, it's you accept chocobos exist, you accept Moogles exist, you accept he exists kind of thing, where he's his own thing.
He's a thing that exists.
Yeah.
But
speaking of those things, also the Tonberry fight at the end is awesome.
Oh, yeah, that was fun because he's so slow and
Chris was
menacing.
like, "What the fuck is this thing?" And I'm like, "You don't fuck with Mr. Tonberry.
Yeah, you be careful.
He will fuck you."
And then he just
will.
like one shot everyone, and I was like, "Oh god!"
With his little
great.
knife. He's pretty terrifying.
He's adorable and
Stabby,
terrifying.
stabby.
And so the big question, and this is interesting because I have there's some developer thoughts about this too. For everybody, Tifa or Aerith, who's your choice?
Is that a question?
That's a question.
We all
Tifa
know
or
my
Aerith?
answer. If you've ever listened to the podcast, it's Tifa.
Yeah, she's a Tifa girl.
If Aerith doesn't
Tifa
die, I'm
for
going to
me
be
as well.
pissed.
When I
I could totally see that
I
happening.
know.
Sorry.
I'm already
okay.
pre-mad.
When I played the original game, at first I was definitely Team Eris, and then they came out with Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core, and we learned more about Zack, and I'm like, okay, Aerith and Zack, I get it, but I super hate this Aerith's voice actor. I hate it so
What?
much. Her voice is so annoying.
That's what it was in my head. This was perfect for me
No,
because I hate her, and that's exactly how I imagined her to talk.
Wow.
but
Wow.
in the old game, I feel okay, yes, they were trying to give off that she's positive, but not necessarily annoyingly bubbly. And this just
I got annoyingly bubbly. I really did. It was painful.
I also just hated how she walked around like this dainty flower. All
they
the
did
time.
that stupid dainty Asian girl physiological moving.
I mean-
I hate that. I hate that shit.
mean, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
So clearly in this game, the choice is Tifa.
Well, okay.
Always been Tifa.
I'll be. I'm Team Aerith.
Wow,
to-
you're gross.
But and also I
why?
disagree with you entirely. I love Brianna White as Aerith Gainsborough. I think she did a great job because that is just like Allison said. That's kind of the character to me. Is that she's too good. She's too good for the situation that she's supposed to be. That she's in. She is. And that's in my opinion. So I think she did that character well, where she's outrageously upbeat, and she always sees the good in things, even whenever there's bad stuff going on.
Yeah, but you don't have to sound annoying to do that.
I don't think
don't
it was
know.
annoing, but that
Oh,
makes
I hate
maybe
it.
that's just me. I don't know.
Or I just think Tifa's voice actress is a better fit or a better I don't know.
Yeah,
was
Britt
so-
Baron was Tifa in that, but I'm Aerith, and I think so. What happened with the development in this though is that they saw the dichotomy of people really liking Tifa and not, and kind of how people felt pigeonholed into we have to like Aerith in the original one. She's your love interest. You have to love her. She's the one that you're kind of directly going towards. But in this, they were no, we want to give you that this knowledge that he is split. He is not himself, so he can't kind of choose between these things. But all of these people are trying to bring out the good in Cloud.
Maybe they're trying to imply, because I looked things up and I found out this, but maybe because he knew Zack is his name.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe because he took on that persona who Aerith was with.
Well, right.
Maybe that's why he's drawn to her.
That's kind
Right.
of what's
Or maybe
implied.
he should be with Tifa.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Where it's almost a literal split personality, where the Cloud parts of him are going for Tifa, but the Zack parts of him are going for Aerith.
Right.
And then the me
And then
part
the lower
of him
half part is going for Jesse.
is going for Jesse.
So thirsty.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I
thirst
love
was so
Jesse.
real.
I'm so sorry.
I
All
loved
of the
her voice actress was awesome.
That was good.
She was great. Jessie was Erica Lindbeck. Was the voice actress for her. She played in the Spider-Man video game. She was Black Cat.
Oh, okay.
So
Just-
you might.
Looking at
You
my
might recognize her
friends
from that.
who have played the game, the amount of people who were shocked how much they loved Jessie and are she's it, she's the perfect everything. I thought it was
The
really
waifu.
funny how they
Jessie
took a
is the-
character like that and just made everyone care about her so much. That was interesting.
Yeah, and like Chris was saying before, like Wedge, he was able to, like, you know, the voice actor, right, Chris?
Yeah.
And so you kind of connected to him in that way too. And also he's kind of a, you know, lovable goof kind of
And then
character.
Biggs was just Charlie Sheen.
Biggs was Charlie Sheen. That was another thirst trap that people were falling into too, especially when you learn about how he's been helping he was a teacher.
Yeah. At the orphanage. I love that his protege at the orphanage you see later at the Honeybee Inn.
Yes.
On the side. And you were just like, what are you doing here? And she was like, what? Don't judge me.
I mean, listen, some of us are teachers. We know how it is. You got to pay the bills, you know?
/ live your dreams.
/ live your dreams. Be a dancer at the Honeybee Inn.
Also, I'm really like jumping around here, but that was one of my favorite scenes.
Oh my God.
It was so over the top and ridiculous.
Oh my God.
I think it
was
needed
the
to
best.
be. Yeah.
It was so great.
So one thing I did really enjoy, we were kind of touching on this before with like the NPC characters and all that stuff. I really enjoyed how big they made the Sector 7 slums and like Wall Market. Like at first it's like kind of overwhelming, but then like there's so much shit to like explore in like the best. I mean, that's arguably like the most entertaining scenes in the game are the Wall Market scenes and like
until you get to like the gold saucer later.
Yeah. So I super liked that. But yeah, Wall Market, A+. I'll just all the
voguing
things.
with Cloud was one of my favorite things.
That was great. I think I mentioned that on the Discord.
Yeah, I think you did. And of course they like kind of, and they fleshed out those Avalanche characters like Bidge, Wegs,
Bidge and Wegs. Bidge and
Biggs,
Wegs.
Wedge, and Jesse. And then they also had like all the other members of Avalanche. Like they had the other like
The
sectors.
full organization.
Yeah, they kind of dove deeper into that. All of the people you meet in Wall Market, like Chocobo Sam, Madam M,
she was
Andrea
great, too.
Rodeo.
That scene was awesome too, with the hand massage.
Oh my God, yeah. Did you do the hand massage?
The implementation. It had
was
so much.
Fantastic. It was so
much.
good.
Did you? Okay, I have a question.
Massage.
What massage did you guys pay for?
I got the
the
most
best one.
expensive one. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Same.
100%.
Who got anything else? That's the question for anyone listening.
But that is one of the ways where there's like different ways you can go. Like you can either do a bunch of quests for Madam M or you could do a bunch of quests for Chocobo Sam. So depending on like how much money you spend, what coin, who decides the coin flip, whether you or Aerith, or if you say heads or tails, depends on like what you could do. So if
Or
you haven't,
it also changes your outfit at the end
Yep.
it does
when you cross dress.
Yes. So if you want to replay that section, if you haven't done it yet, go ahead, make some different choices. See what
Also,
happens.
in the beginning, when you talk to Tifa, pick mature,
The dress she's
the
gonna
dress. When she's like, what should I wear when we go out? Pick mature.
That's
Wow.
that changes what she's
It
wearing.
changes her outfit.
Oh,
And
okay.
doing the different quests in Sector 5, if you do all of them, it's one dress.
Yeah,
if you don't
always
all
do
of them.
all the
Yeah.
quests, basically.
Wow,
I do anyway.
So
okay.
that changes
bizarre.
the dresses.
Chris picked Sporty the first
I
time
picked Sporty.
through, and we looked it
She
up
looked
later.
good.
Oh,
She
that's
still
great.
she still looked fine, but
Capital F.
yeah.
The capital F.
This
OIM.
Wait, backtrack for a second. When we first see Tifa, Chris was like, her boobs aren't ridiculous. And then we see her a little bit more, and he's like, nah, it's okay.
Nah, they're
They're
ridiculous.
good.
She would have
It's
back
good.
problems.
So, and the last kind of like character kind of stuff I want to talk about was all the other stuff. So like the Shinra Corp people, who we get a little taste of them in this, because if you've played Final Fantasy, you know that Midgar is kind of your introduction to all these big bads, because there are all these different bad guys, and as you go through, or good guys, maybe, wink, wink. But then as you play through the rest of the discs and you leave Midgar, you see them in different situations. You get to do like explore more about why they're bad and that kind of stuff.
So I super liked that, actually, because when you're playing the game, you're like, oh yeah, fuck these guys. Of course, they're the bad guys. Why does anybody participate in anything with Shinra if they're this fucking bad? But then, yeah, you get to see like the employees of Shinra who, just like in real world scenarios, think that Shinra is the good guy and like they're on the right side and like, you know, they have nice housing because of Shinra and they have families and like and the media, them showcasing like the news in this game and people like getting on media and like spreading misinformation and like now it's like, oh, I totally see how you can have like this dichotomy and people on both sides that think one thing. And yeah, I thought that was really well done.
How'd you feel about it? Kind of reminded me of the museum section of Shinra Tower. I thought that was kind of dumb because it like I was really hoping like when they had that, I was like, oh, that's going to be kind of cool. I'm going to get to learn really more about them. And then I really didn't. Like it was kind of felt like a missed opportunity. Well,
it gave you kind of the experience that I imagine most of the regular citizens of Midgar have, which is what Katie said, which is where they seem like good people that are doing the right thing. And really, it's like, and of course, just like real life, all of the like regular employees, whenever the Sector 7 plate falls, you can see all of the people working tirelessly to try and fix things and do stuff. But all of the upper level people are just like, more nefarious plans.
I would have liked to see a teeny bit more about Loveless in general. The musical.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Like, I'm glad it was still there. And there was like random NPC characters that were like, I saw it and I loved it. But like, even just to be able to like have a little bit more exposure to it would have been kind of cute. But Wall Market definitely made up for it.
Great. So that's so we'll see how those characters kind of evolve. Now, of course, this is an RPG, but they made it a little bit more combat oriented. So a little bit more hack and slashy versus the turn-based RPG stuff. And I know, Allison, you have some thoughts about the battle system that we had in here, right?
Yeah. So I was the only one who tried classic mode, right?
I tried a little bit of it, but go ahead and talk about the difference between some of them there.
So that's kind of something that was marketed to me wrong again. When they said that they had something and they're calling it classic mode, I expected turn-based battle, which when I played it through at first I was like, okay, I want to play it how they clearly intended it, which is this new battle system. So I did that first, and I won't lie, like obviously it's built to play that way. Like it's really fluid. The battling it makes complete sense to me. Like everything was beautifully choreographed. Like I understand that's what they wanted. But in classic mode, it really was just a poor version of that. Like it wasn't what I wanted with the turn-based version. It was more an AI was playing for me and was doing the motions and moving and attacking. And honestly, I was probably taking more damage doing it that way. So I was losing a lot by playing in that style versus playing with the automatic like hack and slash mode.
Right. So there's 4 different modes. 3 of them are open to you in the beginning. Classic, easy, and normal. Normal is kind of the way they expect you to play it, which is your buddies will attack and kind of do things if you set them to do them, but they won't do it too much. You still have a lot of control over who's doing what. Like you can pick commands. Easy mode, it's just the enemy health is a little bit lower. And the AI isn't as good for the enemies, but your AI is better for your buddies. But in classic mode, basically everybody just defends until you tell them what to do. So that was kind of their like, oh, it's classic mode because you have to tell every single person what to do all the time. But in a system like this, which is based like the Final Fantasy 15, if anybody played that, is very similar, where you had multiple characters all fighting at once and still kind of hack and slashy, but you still pick like potions. You could pick spells to do and ultimates to summon and all that kind of stuff. So what I kind of like that, though. It keeps me involved. I have a little bit of a monkey brain when it comes to that kind of stuff. Whenever it's a lot of sitting around and waiting, I don't really like a whole lot of that kind of stuff.
Oh, well, I was going to say, I think the only bad things I've ever heard about Final Fantasy VII have been about the battle system and not liking the battle systems and So I think they did a really nice job with that this time. Because I was fine with the old battle system, but yeah, it's definitely way more engaging, and you really have to change things up depending on who you're fighting. And each big battle seems to be at least a little different, which is nice.
Yeah, I feel like when I started the game, I kind of did one thing, and then by the end of the game, I was doing something very different in the way I approached battles. Just because like I feel like in the middle of the game there were some really hard fights that I had to just kind of get over the learning curve, and then once I got past that, everything just clicked and it was really good. Like I felt like it was kind of like it was pretty challenging at times on normal. I can't remember what fight I had to do a bunch of times that was super frustrating.
Was it the Hell House?
No, I
Hell
did
House
okay against
was
Hell
the
House.
longest and most annoying.
I really liked.
Oh no,
that.
it was the one.
I liked it. It was just really long.
It was the. It was long. The one right after when you're dropped down the hole from Don Corneo's.
Oh, yeah.
I had to do that one a couple times until I got it. But basically, and I think that might have been the fight that I got it on. But basically, like just constantly switching to different people when their ATBs came up, and running around and kind of knowing that like, okay, my ATB isn't up, but I have to on this ATB I have to heal people, or on this ATB I have to do something, and then just jumping around to make sure I'm getting like their actions at the right time. And I thought it was really cool and dynamic and fun. I really thought the combat was a plus for it.
Yeah, I guess like Dan said, Final Fantasy 15 kind of prepped me for this game, and that style. It seemed very natural, but I feel like the classic mode was a response to the backlash of not having it be like Final Fantasy VII. Clearly, the old version, and as a hardcore JRPG old school player, I do love that mode. I think it's really cool and interesting, and I wish they honestly just would have left it out if they were going to kind of throw it away in the way they did here.
Half-ass it.
It wasn't turn-based. Like, it really wasn't. They were guarding. Right. They were, like, taking damage, and, like, I could just play it better in the other way, and I think it almost did it a disservice, and I wasn't enjoying the game. As a person who likes turn-based RPGs, I was not enjoying classic mode at all. It should not have even been there. They wasted time making it, in my opinion.
I wonder if they just put it there to appease people and say like, "Hey, we did it."
Probably,
yeah, because
it
wasn't
you should
there.
Just play it like this.
It wasn't there in the beginning, and when people found out, they lost their ever-loving minds. It was like this huge backlash when that was discussed originally. So suddenly there was a classic mode they said that was going to be implemented. So for me, when I heard that, I had, again, expectations because they didn't explain it appropriately, thinking it made the game turn-based, and it doesn't. So that was really a letdown. Just shouldn't have even been there. Completely waste of time. I'd love to hear if somebody has a different opinion and actually enjoyed it. But for me, I really didn't.
That seems like it would make certain battles really difficult.
Right. That's how I felt.
Yeah.
I felt like I was running in sand trying to play the game. Like it wasn't turn-based. It wasn't not turn-based. It was just this weird in between that made the game feel like I was at a disadvantage. And I know like the difficulty is supposed to be at normal with that, but it felt not like normal. It felt really hard because of the way things kind of were playing out.
Right. And I think, in my opinion, if they wanted to fix something, it would probably be making you or giving you the ability to tell your AI what to do whenever you're not using them.
Like a priority list.
Yeah. Just kind of like I think they had that in like
Divinity.
Divinity had that. Final Fantasy 12 had that, where you could be like, hey, whenever I'm not controlling you, I want you to primarily attack. And that would be good, because a lot of times whenever Tifa wouldn't be doing anything, I'd be like, get your ATB up, girl. Go punch that dude so I can use the somersault. Shoot.
Right, which is what was turn-based. That's why it was turn-based. You know, you could control all the characters, but you could tell them exactly what you wanted them to do every time, which this doesn't have at all.
I did appreciate how they made Tifa, her attacking in general, not seem quite as weak as the original.
Oh yeah, no,
she hits like a truck.
She would demolish things. Her
She's
ATB
really
goes up
fun.
so fast.
Yeah, she was
whenever
awesome.
she's fighting stuff.
She's probably the most fun person to play as.
Yeah.
I would
and like
agree
I
with
get
that.
I get in the old game, like especially with Aerith, like making her kind of weaker, but like going back and playing it, I always get pissed off at like how weak the girls are.
Yeah.
And I always like I would only equip or only have them in my party to get them stronger because they're so goddamn weak.
Yeah. It was true. Like I wanted Tifa there, but man, it was a struggle having her there.
Well, you had to
But
like spend hours leveling up.
Right.
She hits like a truck. In
Yeah,
this.
yeah, no.
I really like that.
She's actually,
it's
I think,
great.
like the hardest physical puncher. Like,
Which she should
does more
be.
damage
That's supposed to
physically
be,
than Cloud does.
like her thing,
Yeah.
her
At the end of the
shtick.
game.
Oh yeah.
At the end.
And kind of, I want to kind of move on to our speculation section, but before that, I do want to bring up two things. One, why I thought Hell House was such a long fight was because I was woefully unprepared for it. Like I had no magic materia on either Aerith or Cloud. So whenever it was like, oh, use lightning on the house, I'm like, I only have arrow equipped to this person right now, and they're not gonna doesn't do anything. So it took like 40 minutes, and it was really long.
It was a long fight for me too.
And then I have a friend named Lee who Lee, and he was having
Lee.
he died so many times on the battle at the bottom of the elevator with that because he didn't understand how to beat the giant machine gun robot. You know, when you're just Barrett and Aerith.
Oh yeah,
because it's a really long fight, but you have to kind of target different sections of him and do the right things. So he died so many times on that.
I think I did that in one shot.
Me too, but
I thought they did a good job of kind of ramping up the learning curve that way. So,
Right.
I mean, like I said, there was that one time I got stuck, but I don't know. I also appreciated that all the bosses had different mechanics.
Yes, yeah, they weren't all just the same,
and they were good mechanics. Yeah, like I don't know, they made me not stand in the stupid, which I appreciate.
Don't stand in the stupid.
Do we want to talk about some music before we get to the...
Oh, I mean, we can't. I mean, but we can't. Let's talk about some music. But I think everybody knows
Just
what we're going to
quickly.
say, that it was just so good.
It was so
fucking good.
well done.
It was.
Also,
I like the Chocobo.
hip hop to Chocobo.
Hip hop to Chocobo.
Fuck
and
yes.
It's so good.
The first time we heard that, Chris was walking around and we hear the Chocobo like, "Meh," and we're like, what the fuck? And I'm like, that's a Chocobo!
Yeah, I
so
have the
cute.
soundtrack and I'm very pleased. I'm very pleased that I have that.
I'm going to have to download that totally legally somewhere.
I think it was a good way of getting the nostalgic people to like, oh, yeah, I remember all these songs that you really love. Here's a bunch of remixes of them, so you'll be able to listen to them on these jukeboxes, while also having the original, not the original, but Nobuo Uematsu's soundtrack revamped, like all orchestrated. It's no longer just bit sounds. It's really has
Fleshed
depth,
out.
and it
Bunch
makes you
of bops.
feel. It makes
so many bops.
So many bops.
so many bops, and it makes you feel emotions. Like the first time I saw you meet Aerith in the game and like the theme starts playing, I started to tear up and I was like smiling like an idiot because I was just like, oh, this is it. This is where they meet, and it's all so cute and fun, and then like crazy shit happens, but it was really cool, and the music
And then fucking
really helps
Reno.
that.
I think it's like
Oh, no, I guess that was later.
it was so critical because like the soundtrack was gorgeous, but like if it wasn't, that would have ruined the game.
That would have killed it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because in Final Fantasies, and Squeenix in general, like the music is just so important to
It
the
is.
game that if it's not done in a beautiful way, I would have been just so disappointed. I would have just raged. So
I remember commenting on when Chris finally was like open world in the Sector 7 slums. That's the first time you actually hear the world theme.
yeah,
And I was like,
Yep.
it's funny that they're playing that right now
because
because you're still in Sector 7.
But they wanted to give it to you, I guess.
But it's like you're in your own world now.
yeah.
Mm.
Super side note, because I said something about Reno earlier. The part where Rude, when you're fighting him, breaks his glasses and then he pulls out of his pocket another set of glasses was one of my favorite
Oh,
things
that
in
was
the
so
game.
good.
So funny.
It was so good. I really liked them.
Because isn't that a joke? That's a joke somewhere where he's like, he always has another set of glasses or something like
Is
that.
it? I don't know. It was hilarious.
It might have been an
remember, but I loved
Advent
it.
Children or something like that. But
Yeah,
where it's just like,
yeah.
it's like, how do you have so many? It's like, why do you always have another? He's like, I always carry a spare, and he throws them on.
Yeah, no, that was great. I like them.
Yeah, the Turks
great.
are definitely characters that, and we'll see a lot more of them when we come up to kind of the later parts of the game. Speaking of later parts of the game,
Look at that segue.
that's a good segue. That's a chimpanzee riding on a segue.
That's an Ian quality segue.
No, that was
No,
way
it's
better than
it's way better.
Ouch.
Just kidding. Ouch. I'm gonna cut that out of this episode. So basically, this was the first part. Like, this is the very first part of this game. So there's going to be, and we know because we've played it before, there's so much more after this. Like, there is a giant world with different cities, different characters, different storylines.
This was a blink.
Optional characters. And they made it 40 hours long, which is like, oh boy, what are they going to do for the next one?
I have so much anxiety about this.
Yeah.
Me too. But I have some ideas about how they're going to do this. But I want to hear kind of what you guys think first.
They're going to have to skip things or shorten them. If they spent this much time on Midgar, like, I don't know. It gives me a lot of anxiety to think about, like, are they really going to be able to cover everything? And are they going to do these other places justice? And, like, are we even going to be able to fight Ruby and Emerald? Like, what the fuck are those battles going to look like if that's what these battles look like? Like, I don't know.
I don't know who they are, but I do have a question.
Yes.
How much of the remainder of the game was a grind just to get you to where you could fight the next portion?
What do you
That's
mean?
kind of what the overworld was.
Right,
Is
but, like,
because you're flying around or walking around and random battles will happen.
And that kind of also
Right, but,
depends on how you play.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. So I guess I'm saying, like, was there a required grind to make it so you could get up to a certain level, or was it just like story constantly the entire game?
No, you need to grind because
How
Yeah.
much of it was that?
a good amount, I think.
A decent amount.
So
I mean,
I would
yeah.
argue that anything that's grind doesn't need to be there and does not progress the game at all. And so, like, I mean, if that's 10 hours of that game, there's 10 hours of free space.
Yeah. I don't know. So here's where I'm struggling, and we'll just have to see when this next game comes out. First off, it took them 5 years to get here. How long is my next game going to take?
I assume that they've started on the next one, and I assume that they,
Right.
I mean, because part of it is creating the tools.
Right. They
for
have
the, game.
the models for these characters. I mean, there's other characters they're going to need to bring in. Who knows if they have those models? But, like, I get that a bulk of the building of this game is done, but not really, because they have a lot of world to make. So there's that. I don't know how long I should expect this to take, but also, like, so they have, like, the Whispers now. So they have this, like, cosmological force that's, like, trying to put the game back to the way that it was, kind of, is the expectation here, right? Trying to just, like, force these characters into the plot that used to be. So for me, it's like, is this the break-off point where the Whispers become the enemy more so than anything we even remember? Is this about to go full, like, Kingdom Hearts, and we're going to be, like, battling these guys in hoods and these little spooks the whole time?
Ooh, and then maybe Sephiroth becomes part of your team.
Oh my god.
No,
like,
that would be too
no, that would be way.
Well, you do play as Sephiroth in a memory, so
Yeah.
you
You do.
see how fucking strong he
like,
is.
he's just ridiculously powerful.
Right, so
It's insane.
So you get that.
What I was going to say is, like, I think that they're opening themselves up to a lot of different options here. And I think it's going to be, for me, super interesting because, like I said, I don't have that connection to the games like the three of you do. So for me, it's kind of super interesting.
I just feel like it's really going to go one of two ways, right? It's either they're going to kind of stick to the story and we'll get more parts of our old game in this new HD fashion, but not necessarily maybe even the way we're expecting them. Or it's going to be a totally 100% different story, which is kind of what I think will happen. I guess we'll see. I think
it'll
it'll
Square Enix the fuck out of it.
Yeah, I think they are.
I found it interesting that they made all these changes. Like there was things where the Dementors came in and were trying to push it back towards where it was supposed to go, but at the same time, like they brought back Barrett from death,
right?
But then somehow Biggs is still alive. Well, we don't know if Wedge is.
Oh, okay.
He could have died again.
That's right.
But like they definitely show Biggs at the end.
Right, which is the big thing.
So right. So like it doesn't seem like anything negative is happening really because of the shadow, like the Dementors. Like
so what you're saying is there's like nothing like super out of story context. Everything's still generally in the same way.
Well, it is, but like it's all been like positive towards the air quotes good guys.
Right, towards the protagonists of the adventure. Okay.
Like they've brought someone back from the dead, but they also didn't make sure that this other guy didn't die, even though he did die. But maybe it's because he doesn't matter that much to the whole thing.
Well, I mean, I think that's kind of the idea is they're saying we're breaking the story. Like we're in charge of our own destiny now.
I just wish I understood the rules here.
I think it's so I think we may be taking a little bit too literally the fact that the Whispers are like, oh, they have a direction and we're going a different direction than the Whispers are taking us. Now, they say that in the thing, but I think it's more so the fact that it's kind of like the premonitions that you would get in the first game where it's like, this is what's going to happen if we don't, like the meteor. Like, this is what's going to happen if we don't stop the big bad. Like if we don't stop Sephiroth, like the world is going to end. And I think that's kind of foreshadowing this, whereas it's also showing you things like this is like you're still getting these premonitions of it, but they're just putting an entity behind it instead of just being random like flashes of forward memory.
What I thought was really interesting, and I read this afterwards, I didn't realize this at the time, but when you're fighting the three shadows in the Shadow Realm, or whatever you want to call it. Like, you know what I'm talking about when they go through the portal?
Yeah.
They're basically armed the same as Tifa, Cloud, and Barrett would be.
Yeah. They're supposed to be like echoes of yourself.
They're basically echoes of yourself, yeah, which is kind of interesting. So like, it's like those echoes are trying to stop you. I don't know. I thought that was kind of
mean,
right. And that's
I definitely get what Dan's saying, but I think they would have done it differently if that was their plan. I don't think they would have created these entities if they didn't plan to make you really interact with these entities later. So
no, I don't think they're going to interact with these entities at all later.
See, I do.
I think they're done.
I think
I don't think they're done.
I think this is their excuse. I think this is their excuse to change the game fully.
I could 100% see them doing a like
Shadow
Kingdom Hearts version.
Well,
like it's Kingdom Hearts Final Fantasy.
So the director of this is of Kingdom Hearts or Final Fantasy VII Remake is Tetsuya Nomura, who is well known for directing Kingdom Hearts.
He loves
Kingdom
that
Hearts
shit.
2, all of the Kingdom Hearts stuff, Kingdom Hearts 3. That's why the very big boss at the end before Sephiroth is you fighting a big guy while you're jumping on a bunch of rocks. Like, that's just what happens at the end of every Kingdom Hearts game.
I mean, like, hoodie Dementor-like creatures. I was literally immediately like, Kingdom Hearts. We're just... Yeah, it's Kingdom Hearts. I mean, they brought the Final Fantasy characters into Kingdom Hearts. Now they're bringing Kingdom Hearts into the Final Fantasy characters. Like, I feel like this is their excuse to give you that shock factor of this isn't the same game and just make it a completely different game. We'll see with the same characters, but I think we're going to be more focused on the Dementors. I think maybe they'll side with Sephiroth or something because they're trying to put things back, and Sephiroth is manipulating them for his own needs. I see it happening in a completely different way than we're used to.
Also, so once we kind of figured out what was happening with the Dementors and changing the story, Chris brought up a good point of, he was like, maybe this is how they will make Aerith live.
Right. Anger.
I think that's too far. Like that.
I wouldn't put it past him.
I'm going to tell you what's going to happen here. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen in this next game.
Dan, okay.
Okay, Dan.
So I don't think they're going to do an open world. I just don't. I think it's going to be too big.
Huh.
Like there's too much space and there's too many different places to go.
What about when you get an airship?
In Final Fantasy X, you get an airship. When you do that, you have the ability to go these different places while not having like an overworld.
So it's kind of just like teleporting.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, it's your travel system.
Because what they're going to do is they're going to keep the big story points. So they're going to keep like the realm of the ancients. They're going to keep where Sid is so that you can find it because you need an airship. You're gonna go to
Wutai.
Wutai, or where Yuffie is. You're going to go to Nibelheim. Nibelheim. I just got that. Also, Niflheim was
that's Viking lore, but yes.
Yeah. And you're going to go to Red.
He knows.
Yeah, and like Cosmo Canyon, and you're going to go to all those places, but it's going to be very much like it's going to be open world, and that you can go back and forth to them. And
so like. Kind of like when you're exploring like KOTOR, where you just go to different planets and stuff. And then you get off on the planet, and then it's like kind of open, but not really open. Yeah,
right. There will be like a place where you can go and like run around and do quests, but it's still going to be like, oh, this is the Nibelheim area that you're in, or this is the Cosmo Canyon area that you're in. And then that's what's going to kind of propel you forward through the story while meeting all these other characters and doing all this extra stuff.
Yeah,
I can see that.
So, and yeah, I don't see, there's no reason for me to think that they would change like these big moments. Like as a 10-year-old watching like that scene where, super spoiler alert, the scene where Sephiroth kills Aerith is like one of the most like, oh no, like, oh my God, did that just happen sort of moments from my childhood. And I can't imagine that they would change that. I just can't imagine it. It's too drastic.
I don't put it past them.
I could see them trying to make them contrasting games where they have this one less open world and the other one more open world to kind of give that, because open world games are a thing right now. Well, they have been for a long time. So like kind of having both sides of that, I think is kind of cool. But I could also see what you're talking about.
Like slightly open, kind of like Fable.
I will say I am very excited for the Chocobo Farm
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
Golden Saucer.
Gold Saucer and the beach.
Oh, heck yeah.
And Wutai and Cosmo Canyon.
All of those things. I'm excited for the rest of it.
So here's what I think will happen. I think everyone's right and everyone's completely wrong. So I'll tell you what'll really happen.
Sell out.
So I think Chris is right, and we will not have our grind fest. I think they will skip that part. I think they will do that by eliminating the open world, like Dan was talking about. We will just fast travel to these places and just be there more than just like running to it and doing that grind fest to get up the XP you need and things like that. I think the XP will be made up and you'll just jump faster by being in these places and battling these creatures. However, I really do think you will get to those really important places and will be and meet these really important characters. But I do not think it'll be at all the way the old game was. I think that the critical things that should happen are going to try to be forced to happen by these whispers in different ways because the whole story is going to be changed. So it won't be the exact same. So do I think Aerith will die? Yes. Do I think it will happen before the end of the game? No. I think she's going to be a character who's with you the whole time. And then to right the wrongs, the whispers will kill the people who should have died. unkill the people who did die, maybe. Like, I think this is going to be a whole different
That's
game.
very Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, exactly. It's just the vibe I'm getting from all of this. They just wouldn't have built, like, you.
Would that make you mad?
I mean,
yes and no. Right, exactly, Katie. Like, that's where I'm at. It's like, I just wish I had this information sooner. I am so let down right now. Yep. But I have time to come to grips with this and accept this.
I think it's awesome.
This is a different game.
I think I don't feel let down by anything because they gave it to us. We asked for it and they did give it to us.
In a different way.
In a different way, but it would be boring if they did exactly the same thing again.
Just tell me. I'm so mad. Just tell me
they did. It's a remake. It's a remake, not a remaster.
But like,
so
the battle at the end of this was so unnecessary and was so Square Enix.
Exactly.
Like,
that's why they're gonna Square Enix this shit up.
Yeah.
Well, in its defense, and I'm gonna, I know you guys hate me whenever I say this kind of stuff, but in Tetsuya Nomura's defense, it's the end of a game still, and you need that kind of release. You need finality. That I did the big thing, and it was awesome, and I did it.
But yes. Then, what is the end gonna look like?
That's the whole thing.
Even more epic.
That's
you fight a meteor.
That's where I'm at. Like, I really think we're gonna get a different game. We'll see who's right. But I really think we're gonna get this totally different game. But they'll flash the important moments in a different way. And I'm ready for it now, I guess. I've had time to come to grips with my anger and frustration at the poor marketing and expectations they set up for me that, again, let me down. This is Cloverfield all over again. And, and I'll be fine when the next game comes out in 18 years. But right now, I'm just angry. I know my voice is getting better. Sorry.
I think so. As I'm playing through it now, I'm just trying to be like, just enjoy the world.
Right.
Just have fun. It's a game. Just have fun.
I'm ready for the next Kingdom Hearts. Let's do it.
But I had so much anger.
I did.
Katie,
I did. Yeah.
Katie, what's the future look like for you? I don't know if you said yours already.
Very similar to Allison.
Okay.
My girl. Okay, let's do it. Out of 10.
Allison is a Miss Steal Your Girl right now. So
I've been trying. It's just not working. It's fine. I accept it. No.
As she touches my arm. Yes, it's working. Touch your arm.
Okay, so out of 10, what do you give this game? I just kind of want a general like how everybody feels about it.
Let's start with Katie. Out of 10, what would you give it?
That's hard because do you mean like right now?
I know. I hate ratings. We know my feelings on rating games. I despise it.
Well, I just want a
first?
synopsis.
That's fine. So
right now.
Let's do it like this. Just give it a whatever rating or what you would tell people about the game if you were to tell this game to somebody.
I would say probably like a 6 out of 10. And then right now, probably like an 8.
An 8 out of 10 chocobos. Not bad.
8 out of 10 chocobos. Chris?
I think I give it 8.75 Dementors out of 10.
Squeenix Dementors. Cool. They're not technically Dementors.
Moogle medals.
Yeah. Right. That's copywritten.
I'm going to give it medals. How about that?
Or chocobos. I do like the chocobos.
I'm gonna give it about 8.5 to 9 really good squats out of 10 because I really enjoyed it. I just inhaled the game. I really went through it and I really loved the whole time I was playing it. There was at no point where I was like, oh, this is really boring, blah. It was like, I'm doing things and I enjoyed it the whole time.
But there were frustration points.
There were frustration points, but I still enjoyed playing it.
Right.
The frustration.
That's why we had the same score, basically.
I'm sick of those sewers.
All right, Allison, what about you?
Okay, so when I finished where I was at and then read what happens next, I was at like a 6 out of 10. I was real mad. But now, honestly, I'm like at an 8.5 or a 9 out of 10 honestly.
Nice.
Rude glasses. That's my scaling score. 9 out of 10 rude glasses.
The little bit
broken
glasses
or non-broken rude glasses.
Yeah. Freshly pocketed rude glasses.
Freshly. Put them on your face.
Wait, can we go over sexiest character?
Oh, it's Tifa. We're done.
No. Sorry, sexiest male character.
Oh, don't care.
So
You're allowed.
So that
to
for me,
oh, it's Jules.
That the game overall
Jules.
is beautiful. It has great voice actors.
Oh yeah,
The
it's gorgeous.
story-
I don't know if we
Jules.
said that enough, but
Yeah,
man,
it's
they
gorgeous.
fucking beautiful game. Like,
Beautiful.
the person.
I
the
was so
music's
thirsty
great.
for every character.
Yes, the music's
and
great.
for every environment.
They shouldn't all be pretty. It's a little unnerving.
I don't care. They can all be pretty.
Was Sephiroth everything you imagined?
Here's the thing. I was not into Sephiroth in the old games, and in this game, I'm way in. I'm like, hello, Cloud who? He's got that pointy weird chin. What did they do to him? I'm all in for Sephiroth.
Also, what's her name on the board? With the
Scarlet.
red dress? Scarlet.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Scarlet!
Yeah.
She was great.
Yeah.
She had two massive Tifas.
I don't remember those.
So overall, this is a beautiful game, and I'm in for it now. I was very angry, and again, it's just not the game I wanted, but the game I'm going to get will be wonderful. I think it's just not the game I wanted, which is fine.
All right. So if you had a favorite character from Final Fantasy VII, if you had a favorite character from it, not just this game, the remake, from entire Final Fantasy VII, who would it be? And you don't have to give me why, but just who's your favorite character from it? Because I know what mine is.
Tifa. I mean, it is Tifa. It's always been Tifa. I've said it 1,000 times. I love that character. She gave strong women a name for me when I was younger, even though she was paged as real weak, as we discussed, for some reason. She had curves, and she was a character in a game with curves that was overly sexualized, whatever. But for me, it was like representation of a strong girl with titties. I can still punch things. Thank you.
Holla. Chris, what about you?
Oh, fuck. I don't know.
I don't think that's a character.
Johnny.
Oh, fuck.
No.
Johnny's great.
He's
Johnny
everything
is
I want to
great.
be. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's harder for me because I haven't played everything. I really enjoyed a lot of the characters. I really enjoyed Barrett, Tifa. I thought Corneo was really entertaining in a douchey sort of way.
Don Corneo was great. Yeah.
Chocobo Sam, I really enjoyed. Madame M, I really like. I enjoyed a lot of the characters. I don't know if I could really pick one, but I also don't have that
Right, you don't
grounding
have
like
the
you guys do.
background. Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, everybody.
I don't have the whole story yet.
We'll get there. We'll get there. Katie.
So it's hard to pick just one. I do really enjoy Vincent and Red 13 and Kate Sith.
Oh yeah, there was I was like, who is this fucking cat with a crown
Yeah,
on
you
it?
you accept it. That's
There's
Kate
it's
Sith.
just there.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
Like
but it's
for
there.
1 second, it was there,
Yeah.
and I
Yep.
was like, "Who is this?"
Yep.
She was like, "Oh, Kate Sith," and I was like, "I don't know who that is."
Always coming.
But he looks dope. It's a
Get
cat
Get
with
ready
a
for
crown.
Golden Saucer.
Buckle
He'll be
up.
there.
I don't know, and I love me some Sephiroth. He's so sexy. I can't.
Sexy.
There's a
Roth,
reason that he's like widely accepted as like the baddest dude.
The
just
baddest and the sexiest and the
Yeah.
strongest and the craziest.
I like
So
my
wait,
crazy.
you think he could? We discussed this before, but he could defeat Ganondorf. Is that what we just,
I think so.
Yeah.
decided?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
I like Ganondorf.
You'll see.
Nah.
You'll see.
Yeah.
My favorite is actually Kate Sith because
Yes.
of story implications that happen later. Chris.
Buckle up.
I might
Buttercup.
have read that, but
Oh, really? Just
Yeah.
because of like who Kate Sith really is and the kind of the development of that character that you get later where it's like, I had no idea, but it makes so much sense. And so that's mine.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts before we have to stop recording this obscenely long microbrew we just did?
Sorry.
Squeenix, I knew this was going to be long. This is why I wanted a microbrew.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's good.
Squeenix, you can mail my anxiety medication too. The following address.
Beep.
They have so much power.
It was cool, and I'm excited.
Yeah, it was great. I thought it was great. I have no complaints that people wouldn't be like, "Oh, shut up," about.
I
so.
reluctantly say it's very good.
I feel like everyone's going to be like, "Oh, shut up, Allison," but I still have my complaints.
No, my complaints are just about really just gameplay stuff. Like the story, I thought it was cool. Gameplay, some of it was stuffed in, didn't need to be there.
Right.
But you could tell they were trying to stretch for 30 hours. So overall, it was good.
The one thing I'm looking forward to is the really slow side game you have to play to defend an egg on a mountain, where you have to put a bunch of weird shit all over the place.
Yeah, I've been wondering about that.
Chris doesn't know what that's about.
That was one thing. I really liked the diversity of gameplay in this as well. There was you were doing different things a lot of the time, which was cool.
Yeah, and that's kind of what keeps it fresh. And they did that in 7 a lot. There was a lot of different stuff that you would do. And I think they kind of kept that alive. So
I really liked Shiva. She was as pretty as she deserves to be.
Shiva's always
she wrecked
like
my shit at first.
She's like my fave.
I love her.
Yeah.
Also, Fat Chocobo. Fuck yeah.
Fat Chocobo. Did anybody get
the Chocobo?
Oh, what is it? It's the last summon that you get in the game.
Oh, I only had the 4.
Bahamut?
No.
I had Ifrit, Shiva,
and the
Moogle and Chocobo, and Fat Chocobo.
Yeah, I think
so. There is one that you can get by it's Leviathan. Is one that you can get, or
how do you get it
in this one?
Yes, you get Leviathan by doing. It's like one of the highest battle simulations you can do with Chadley.
Chadley.
So
Chadley.
And it's very difficult. I still haven't finished doing that. You can also get Bahamut.
This game?
And then yes, you can. Again, it's part of the battle simulator stuff, so that kind of gives you a like reason to keep going and battling things and building your XP. And
I'm curious to see what they're going to do with
simulations.
Knights of the Round.
That'll be interesting. That was one of my favorite summons from the game. And then there were also some that like you could get Carbuncle and Cactuar and Chocobo Chick if you had pre-order bonuses and first class editions and deluxe editions.
Does Carbuncle look as ugly as he did in the original art?
He looks like a little dog with a red diamond on his head and a giant forehead. So yes.
Why did they make him a clone head?
Oh, go ahead. Also, Stamp. I love that.
Oh, Stamp's so
like
cute.
Random fucking little shit like that.
Which Carbuncle wasn't in 7. Anyway, sorry. Continue.
Sorry.
Yeah. So anyway, so we're gonna stop now.
Yeah, we could just keep going.
literally, we could talk about this forever. So we're gonna cut it off here. If you want to hear any more of our feelings on Final Fantasy VII, please hit us up on at the Game Brew
Clearly,
at all of our social medias. We do have opinions.
I told you
Allison
I have
has
so
opinions.
many
I have
feelings.
opinions. Katie has opinions. Chris has opinions. But hit us up at the Game Brew on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You can go to our website, thegamebrew.com. You can come hang out with us in the Discord and yell at us about our opinions there. The web address for that is Chris. What's the web address for that?
bit.ly.
You're not Chris.
You're not Chris, Allison.
bit.ly/discobrew.
Now spell it.
DISCOBREW.
Yes, indeed. Can we look forward to seeing you there? We also have a lot of other fun things that we do there too, like share fun pictures.
Movie nights.
We have movie nights. We have a section that's basically just it's like the Dow. It just goes up and down with the stock market for Animal Crossing. But yeah, so come hang out with us there, and you can also email us at thegamebrew@gmail.com, and we will check that sometimes.
All right, Dan, let's end this. I have to pee.
Chris has to pee, so we're gonna end it. Say good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Pet your chocobos. See, that's what I needed at the end of my battles.